how you use them.
T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Biz Doc Podcast. We're here this week. There's a lot going on. The Super Bowl is done. I'm not going to go into that, but you know it's early 2024, so you can go figure out which Super Bowl I'm talking about. But we're going to dive into some things that came up. We have a couple things that are really cool this week. And first, I'm going to grab a vault, man. Unlock your brain with a vault. I got today watermelon. You know I like that black cherry best, but today I got the watermelon. You know, no caffeine, no sugar, just enough Tito's. All right, makes the Biz Doc podcast better. So what do we got this week? The first thing we got, we're going to talk a little bit about streaming wars. The streaming wars are here. It affects you and me because sometimes you have to buy 2 packages or 3 packages to get the content we want. But the backdrop of it is big, giant companies are in the middle of streaming wars, and we've got stats on that. Netflix versus Disney versus Paramount, all of that. And then the case study, very interesting. Bunch of headlines this week about Snapchat laying off a bunch of people, struggling against TikTok. Was hoping TikTok would get canceled by the US government. Hasn't happened yet. Stock way down. We're going to dive into a case study on that. But first, let's go to these stats. So the streaming wars, you all know what's going on. You've got King Disney, or Queen Disney, if you want to call the king. The king's now queen if you're thinking of woke things. And they have got Disney Plus, and they have ESPN, and they got Hulu, and they have all those packages you can put together because they got a lot of gold there. They got ESPN, they got Hulu and everything that's in there, and then they got Disney Plus. So they got a lot of muscle. But then there's Netflix with this massive, massive library and building its own things. I mean, I became a Netflix subscriber. I mean, like absolute subscriber, dedicated, and I haven't looked back. Like about 7 years ago, House of Cards. The Biz Doc Babe and I would binge on like 2-3 House of Cards episodes one evening, like 8 to 11, once a week. Once you start having kids, you don't have that. You got homework and everything else. But I remember binging, and I just fell in love with some of the things that Netflix put together. Well, there comes Disney, and here comes Paramount Plus. And then there came, what was it, Peacock, who took one of the NFL playoff games and said, we are the only ones that have it. You know, like that, what was that little guy in Lord of the Rings, Gollum? My precious, I have the game you want. And so you had to get Peacock to get that. So we're going to talk about the streaming wars, what's going on. And here's the chart. The chart is coming back. There's the chart. Disney Plus losing ground in the never-ending streaming wars. Well, the reason they're never-ending because there's always something going on, like Peacock paying a whole bunch of money to the NFL to get one game, one playoff game, and putting it on Peacock, and that's what's called the paywall effect. Oh, you want this game. You have to buy into Peacock. I did it, and I told the Biz Doc Babe, read the fine print. How long is the subscription? She said, you may cancel at any time. Great, cancel Monday. We're watching the playoff game. So we paid $6 for a playoff game, and then we canceled. If Peacock, you're watching, no offense, no hard feelings. You got what you wanted. I watched the game on your network. You got $6 from me or whatever it was. I got what I wanted. So those are paywall effects that are trying to create barriers to other companies like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Paramount. However, it's also pissing off consumers. You're trying to get more of them to grab Peacock, but you're only putting one game out there. You need a collaboration between all of the channel sets, everything you have in there. And streaming wars, not even on this chart is YouTube TV, who I think it was YouTube TV that backed up the truck and paid a whole bunch of money for NFL Sunday Ticket. And NFL Sunday Ticket used to be only on DirecTV, and all my friends and everything had DirecTV. Had a great channel guide. You know, you had a satellite dish on your house. You had like 30 channels of music on the end too. So there was some value there, but NFL Sunday Ticket was the anchor, the ongoing anchor, not one playoff game. So how is everybody doing? We go to COVID, everybody goes inside to the home. And everybody's in their house, and they're streaming and watching and binging while claiming that they're working from home, or in the case of Jeffrey Toobin, doing certain things from home while on a Zoom call with CNN. You know what that is. Anyway, so on the chart, you can see Netflix. Look at this. Netflix now at 260 million through early 24. And we pulled this from company filings thanks to our good friends at Charter. Charter, you can get a weekly newsletter, kind of interesting stuff, but giving them credit where credit's due. We pulled this from their work and we validated it because I went in and looked at company filings too to make sure was there anything additional in here I wanted to talk about. And here you go. Netflix is at 260 million. Look at Disney Plus. Gee, they've had a little issues there. So they were up over 150 million. Now they've slacked down. There's a leveling effect. Look at Paramount Plus. Just a little engine that could. They're trying to build a business there. And you get it. You get Peacock. Businesses today are facing a rough world. The stock market is in an angry mood, as is the economy. Banks are failing. Inflation is never ending. And a looming recession threatens to wipe out stock value. That's bad for business, but even worse for retirement funds, especially if you're the one getting ready to retire. And to make things worse, the government is targeting those retirement funds, you know, your 401ks and your IRAs, with heavy new taxes to pay for things like social justice agendas and federal deficits. The good news is that there is a way to help protect your financial future: investing in precious metals. American Hartford Gold will ship physical gold and silver directly to your door. Or they can set you up with a gold IRA where you can invest in gold that shows up in your IRA. The gold IRA can shield your wealth from this economic meltdown, and the best part is this method is tax and penalty free. That's right. Analysts predict that gold is set to hit all-time highs. If you have retirement funds that you cannot afford to lose, now is the time to call a precious metal dealer. And here is the only precious metal dealer that I, the Biz Doc, currently trust: American Hartford Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio from stocks, mutual funds, and other things with physical gold and silver. With the finest products, fantastic customer service, and a buyback commitment, American Hartford Gold has earned a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Tell them the Biz Doc sent you, and they'll give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first order. Click the link in the description below or call 866-535-0767. Again, on your screen, 866-535-0767, or just text BIZ, B-I-Z, to 65532. So what's this saying? It's saying that before Hulu and before the streaming wars, Netflix was taking off, and we were all getting a Netflix subscription, and you got it for your laptop. Netflix then popped up last year in terms of stock price. Why? Because of profits. Why? It doesn't look like that the subscribers jumped a lot. Netflix cracked down on sharing your password with your buddy. So they would check the IP address of your device, and you have a phone and you have a laptop, but as soon as you got past a certain number, then Netflix is there with a German accent. What are you doing there? Too many people are using the same account. And suddenly that got people to actually pay for their own account. But it's sort of interesting. It's like having Netflix freemium thanks to your friend, and you're loading up on and you're binging all these things. Wow, this content's pretty good. This stuff's good. I'm enjoying this. Great. And then what happens? Then they say, hey, I can't share my password with you anymore. Why? Well, they kind of caught me and everything, and so you got to buy your own. And they're like, well, the Netflix stuff's pretty good. I mean, $16 a month. Okay, I'll pay it. That's like what? 2 Starbucks, in the morning, donut in the Starbucks, $8, $9. So you do that twice and you have Netflix for a month. Easy math. So Netflix also popped up. Well, guess who's thinking about doing the subscriber anti-password sharing boogie? The mouse. The mouse is about to come down on us and say password sharing is verboten, and so we can't do it there either. But the interesting thing is Netflix is at 260, Disney's only at 150. So you would think Disney, with all the Marvel, all the stuff, I think they got, and of course all their own stuff, my gosh, all the princess stuff, everything else your kids want and everything, although all the princess movies are being remade with like angry trans people. So better watch out, Disney. I know a lot of parents are sitting there going, how bad do I want Disney Plus, and how good is YouTube TV getting? Maybe I go to the evil empire YouTube TV and ditch you, especially since right now the package, Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. But what did we just hear about ESPN? It's going to get together with Fox and all these sports things to create a super sports. So now you just pay for the super sports and you pay for Netflix and maybe you pay for YouTube TV. And guess what? Man, that kicks Hulu right in the ass. See how that works? So the streaming wars, remember, it's also good for you and me. Pay attention to what you're watching. Pay attention to what you're paying for. Be an informed consumer. Send them emails to the customer service saying they do listen and tell them what you like and don't like. Make your own choices. But I think ultimately the streaming wars are going to be good for consumers everywhere because it's going to give you more choice and the streamers are competing. And YouTube TV was just a baby. Hulu went right past it with live television, and everyone thought, in the streaming corporate offices, they were convinced that everybody wanted to pay for live TV, that you got to have the ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox on the live TV, local. When we had it in Dallas, it was very important. We would get those little tornado warnings and hail and weather warnings. Very, very helpful stuff. Well, guess what? The thinking was everybody wanted to have live TV. That is proven not exactly to be the case. And so people are content to say, hey, look, I'm going to get a text message notification on my phone for an Amber Alert. My phone goes off, there's a tornado. So the fact I don't have live TV, that's okay. And I have all those commercials with the shows on network. I'd rather just go to Netflix and pay something and get no commercials. There you have it. That's where it's going. So very interesting stuff. So be an informed consumer, and the sports app is coming. ESPN is stuck now at like 25 million subscribers for ESPN Plus after I think it peaked at 26, but it's been stuck. So it's not growing and it's starting to slip. And they just made this announcement that they're going to join forces with everybody and create this super sports app. Really? Wow. Interesting stuff, interesting times. Well, speaking of interesting stuff and interesting times, there has been a lot of articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, big articles about what's going on at Snapchat, laying off people. Stock takes quite the dive after a stock dive in 23. What's up with all of that? Great question, and I got a question from R. Billingham from Kansas City, Missouri. So if you are R. Billingham, thank you very much for the question. And I dove into it. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and talk about Snapchat a little bit, and then wade into what's going on right now because there's a lot of factors, and see if it's not helpful to you. Did the same thing a week ago with Universal. Why is Taylor Swift off TikTok? No, her music is off TikTok in terms of being a backtrack until TikTok and Universal can have a contract, and I went back and gave you that. Well, this week, we're going to go take a look and find out what is up over at TikTok with the stock going down, people getting laid off, and I'm going to take you back to the beginning so we can rewind to go forward and find out what's up. So I'm going to take my vault, I'm going to head over to Studio B, find my board, and dive in. All right. I found my board. Got my vault there. Watermelon, black cherry, cucumber mint. Get them at Amazon. You can order a whole box of them there. And check those out. No caffeine, no sugar. Gotta love it. It unlocks your brain, the Vault drink. Now let's see if I can unlock some brains today with Snapchat. So there's a whole bunch of things going on last week on Snapchat. Let's find out what's going on. So Snapchat, we know what it is. It kind of sort of competes with TikTok, short form videos, and it's not really the social network. It doesn't have all the stuff that's built into that the way other social network things like Meta, Facebook, Insta, and all that, a little bit different. And this last week, and you guys asked, one of you did, what's up with the downer headlines? And that was exactly what you put in a comment. Snapchat, what's up with the downer headlines? Well, those headlines were downer. That's a downer. Snap to lay off 10% of global workforce, around 500 employees. Then, Snap stock slump after sales at Snapchat parent disappoint. It's like a tongue twister. Say that 5 times fast. So did the stock disappoint? Oh my gosh, boy, look at that. There's a guy got to the roof and he jumped to the parking lot. Yow. Down 35% in the past 5 days. And this is as of February 12th. So this is last year. So if you're watching this, we're recording this on Monday right after this. So this is very current. This isn't like a month ago. This is last week. Oh my gosh, that's certainly not what you want. And then Snap announces layoff to promote in-person collaboration. There's some HR speak there. And finally, Snap cuts 530 employees, 10% of workforce to boost in-person work. So they're laying people off for financial reasons because stocks go down for financial, but they're throwing a little bit of spin on here on the impersonal work crap. So there you go. But nonetheless, there's downer headlines. So what's going on? We know that there's been these rumors that, oh, if you own stock in Snapchat, boy, you get on Robinhood and be ready with Snapchat because it's going to be like GameStop, because as soon as TikTok gets smacked in the head by the U.S. government, because we know TikTok was invented in Wuhan at a wet market. Wait, no. TikTok wasn't invented in Wuhan at a wet market. That was something else. Anyhow, it was came out of China and has been successfully competing, but people are really concerned about your data, your usage habits, and maybe other things on your phone, finding them way out the back door into the servers that are running TikTok. So there's been a lot of that going on, but let's go look at the beginning of Snapchat, where it began. You have these two nice kids freshly out of college, or close to being out of college, Evan Spiegel and Bobby Murphy. There was also another guy named Reggie Brown, and in 2011, they created a thing called Peekaboo. And the Peekaboo app was created, and then Reggie Brown was asked to leave the company or left on his own, but later he came back and sued him. Everybody kind of came together and figured out what they were going to do, and in 2012, it was named Snapchat and no Reggie. So there is that. So a little bit of drama at the beginning. So lesson number one, if you're going to get into business with partners, be sure everybody's in it for the long haul and you all are in agreement, and write that crap down and everybody sign the piece of paper. Because if you don't, a lot of people argue. And even when you do, sometimes people argue, but it's less easy to win the argument if you write it down in the first place and get everybody on the same page going in. Onward, 2013, they announced Stories. Remember that? They also got hacked. There was a hack there. And I think it was like, it showed everybody saw a picture of a banana or something. I forget what it was, but they got righteously hacked, changed things. Also, Facebook wanted to buy them for $3 billion. Why? Because in very short order, look at this. In just a couple years, Stories and Snapchat took off. Remember 2013, exactly 10 years ago, really was rocking. And then 2014, they had massive traction. 50 million DAUs, that stands for daily active users. 40% of adults were using it every month. That's big in 14. So man, why wasn't Facebook interested in that? Well, they were. They tried to buy it once, and they tried to buy it again in 2015. Ads and lenses were added, and Facebook tried to buy them again, and they're at 100 million daily active users. Okay, then if you can't buy them, that's weird. Buy them. So if you can't buy them, what do you do if you're Facebook? Copy them. Of course, Insta launches Stories, and Snapchat is sitting there at 150 DAUs, 150 million. There you go. Then they did an IPO in 2017. By 2020, they were at 200 million. That should be an M there for million daily active users. And finally, in 2023, 250 million daily active users. So there's a quick run through from 2011 to 23 on 12 years on the key things. Now then, people also ask me, hey, Biz Doc, can you not confuse the two angles? Will you help us with the financing? So guess what I'm going to do? Remember this storyline, and now let's go back and look at it in terms of financing. Funding and valuation. 2011, later founded, later refounded, you know, the whole thing I told you about the Reggie guy. So 2012 in May, seed round financing, $485,000 with a valuation of nothing, because you've done nothing. You just got some seed money and you're off and running. 2013 in February, they did a Series A, $13.5 million was invested at a $70 million valuation, and that was done by Benchmark. Really smart guy that was there at Benchmark, identified these guys. He also connected with a guy at Sony, and a guy at Sony and his wife, introduced him to Evan Spiegel. A lot of things going on in LA. So this thing came out of LA with some smart people out of LA with some Silicon Valley money. And here we are, 2013, 10 years ago, we're off and running. Then 2013 in June, a little bit later, suddenly it's 80 million at an 800 million valuation. Well, what was going on between the two things here is, remember, go back on that other page, the daily active users was off and running. It was chunking along. And so they already realized the valuation of this thing due to the network effect and the virality of the app. Then 2013, by December, a $50 million Series C at a $2 billion, that's a speculated amount. I went to Crunchbase and a lot of other places like that, and there was no official announcement from the company, but media at that time was reporting that they were around $2 billion valuation. But it does make sense where it was heading, but it doesn't really matter if that was or wasn't the valuation. They were off and running, and as I showed you on the other page, they were way up now, over $100 million daily active users, DAU. Then 2014, December, a Series D, 485 million, almost $500 million raised at a $10 billion valuation. 20-some investors were in there. I think Yahoo Ventures was in there, a bunch of them in there. I used to have the list. Doesn't really matter. It's a whole crowd, and some of these other people were following. So away we go. 2015, March, Series E, they raised another $200 million at a $15 billion valuation. Look at the valuation. From 2011, when you were founded, 2012, you raised the seed, you put in the seed money, and you're basically building this in Evan Spiegel's father's house. I would say garage, and that's so Silicon Valley. Hewlett-Packard started in a garage. Google actually started in a garage, but they didn't start in a garage. They started in Evan Spiegel's father's house, which was very, very nice. His garage is probably nicer than most people's homes. So away we go, and here we are 3 years later. You're at a $15 billion valuation with America's newest, hottest, the globe's newest, hottest social media app with hundreds of millions of dollars of units of daily active users. Woof. 2016, they do a Series F, and this is just less than a year later, actually a little more than a year later, at a 1.8 billion raise at an unknown valuation. But I'm going to tell you, it was probably close to 2025. How do we know that? Because we know what was happening with the daily active users heading up, and in March of 17, they kind of alluded to it here, had an IPO where they raised $3.5 billion at a market cap, first day market cap, approximately $33 billion. Take a look at this. From being founded here to an IPO, I mean, you're talking 5 years here, from here to IPO with a market cap $33 million. There is just one word for that, and that is damn. Look at that. That was a rocket ship ride. So now then, if you want to look at this on two vectors, which is very interesting, our good friends at the Visual Capitalist, they like to make charts. Some of their charts are interesting. Some of them are a little convoluted. This one, if you want to go check it out, it's really cool because it takes you through these daily active users, the yellow line, and then overlays on here the whole IPO. You know, if I was back and still charting and doing all the stuff on my board, remember my board and all my fluorescent markers and everything, putting it together, I kind of miss that. I may do a classic case study this summer and go back to the old board and find it and put it all together like that. But take a look at this. It's very interesting, and you can find this at Visual Capitalist. And this takes you to 2021. Here's the reason I really like this. I went back and dug this up. This is a couple of years old. It covers Chapter 1, the emergence, 2012, and up to the IPO, which was right here, 2017. It also shows you a little bit of Chapter 2, where they had a bunch of momentum. So after the IPO, they kind of sank a little bit, and all of a sudden they drove a little 2019-20, and look what happened in 2021. Boom. Jumped 450% since the beginning of COVID. People are in house. People are watching, snaps all over Snapchat and not working a lot, even though they said they were. So you have these two chapters. There's a third chapter, and let's get into it and take a look at the stock price with the third chapter. The stock history. So it starts with Snap, closes up 44% after IPO. Wow. That was big, but then you saw for like 2 years it was flat, and all of a sudden it went jumping up. Well, let's take a look. There it is, the IPO kind of sinks down rubs up, boom, gets all the way up here. I think that was something like, 82 or something like that was the all-time high. But right now we're sitting here as of a week ago. Actually, excuse me, that would be 3 weeks ago, January 26, 1625, and we are sitting right here. But I already showed you what happened a week later, is it dropped back down very, very badly, a big drop. So now you see what's going on. It is down 59% since it started here, but in the middle of it, a whole lot of money was made and a whole lot of money was lost. So now you can see this here is Chapter 2 momentum, like I showed you in the other page, and Virtual Capitalist put it together and take to right here, and now, Visual Capitalist, excuse me, and now we get to Chapter 3. It's now what? Now what? So let's take a look at what's going on. So we know why it was out. We know why it was popular. We know about stories. They invented stories. So 2022, competition with TikTok is heating up. TikTok's really on a roll. You had a lot of things that were happening. They had a near-death experience where, remember, then President Trump said, we may regulate those guys and shut them off here in America. And the guy was, their leader was called to Congress to give testimony. A lot of things. Well, a lot of that had kind of blown over by the second year of Biden's administration from 2020 to 2022. And so TikTok's heating up a bit. And 2023, TikTok announced they had 2 million users that were subscribing to Snapchat Plus. They had growth concerns they're starting to talk about. Ad sales concerns, CPMs at sponsorships, and digital ad correction was happening in general. So there's some issues happening here that were driving the company the other way. And also TikTok, what they are and aren't, was captured beautifully by an analyst I'm going to take you through in just a second. Then 2024, TikTok is not going away. However, your ad revenue is, your growth was, and they make an announcement here in early 24 of the fourth quarter not being so good. Remember that first slide I showed you? Whack! A straight drop, as we say, from the penthouse to the street. Kamikaze from the 40th floor. Swan dive to the street. Pavement, his face shall meet. There's the poetry for you. So, now what? Oh, am I going the right way? An analyst speaks. Scott Kessler of Third Bridge Global, and he's a sector lead for this media. Let's read carefully what he wrote. Sometimes analysts write long, drawn-out explanations that really are kind of, you're trying to make sense of it, or you're just trying to impress us or make sense. This gentleman, in 2 paragraphs, small paragraphs, really captured what's going on, and let's talk about, so you can answer the question, wow, what's happening to Snapchat? Why is the stock all the way down? Why is the earnings all the way down? I thought there was hope. Look what it was doing during COVID. Oh my goodness, but now what? Here we go. What I would say, what has happened to Snapchat? What I would say about that really is one thing and one thing only, and that is historically this company, Snapchat, more than any other social media company, has focused on brand advertising versus performance advertising, helping brands connect to consumers using Snapchat, so new shoes, shirts, music, whatever it is. It's one of the reasons why Snapchat, really had some issues early on post-COVID, if you will, because there was this dramatic shift to direct response advertising essentially associated with e-commerce. That's not how Snapchat was built. Uh-oh. The commerce that Snapchat was driving was not what was happening here. Part 1. Part 2 from Scott. It's not how it was operating, and they've spent essentially the last year rebuilding the advertising technology and solutions to enable them to move effectively, sell that kind of performance, e-commerce advertising. But because of that historic orientation, it's really put them on the defensive, and they've spent a lot of time and a lot of money essentially re-engineering the platform for those capabilities. Guess what he's saying? The original Snapchat and how they would make money on you and me, on how they would sell the space and monetize us. Because remember, if you're using something for free, you're the product. They're selling ads against us and promotions and things. And they were focused on brand advertising versus performance advertising. Guess what? They've had to recalibrate the system and rebuild to prepare for that. That's what's going on. Scott Kessler, thank you very much. This I took from a live interview and a summation, and he covers Snap for the market as an analyst covering the sector. And you can see what he's talking about. They've really had to rebuild it. So that's what's going on. Snapchat is having to make themselves more Instagram-like, but they've always argued they're not a social media company. They just ran a commercial, which I can't show you, but you can go look at, during the Super Bowl, in which they were trying to convince people they're not a social media company, yet they're building the back end out to do a lot of things exactly the way Instagram is to get our dollars, or more importantly, to get companies that want to sell stuff to spend their dollars against reaching you, me, and everyone that may be on Snapchat. There you go. So now, lessons for you and me. First of all, Snapchat didn't come out as a Me Too. It came out there and it was dominating in what's going on. And so if you think you're a Me Too, remember, differentiation matters. Snapchat's strategy was not Me Too. There's Me Tooism if you look at TikTok, but Snapchat came out to be something very different in 2011, 12, 13, so much so, and with stories, Facebook tried to buy them not once, not twice, and once of them they had a $3 billion check in their hand to do it. So it's tough to fight against giants should you decide to be Me Too, but you can fight giants when differentiation that matters is available to you. They have to move to you. And you can see that there were things that Meta and Insta did to copy the very features that Snapchat was putting out. If it's all about money and that's all you want, sell out. Take the $3 billion check. But if it's all about vision, do it. But be prepared for the worst. Because guess what? You could be on the forgotten last page of the history book, oh, and this happened to them. But you know what? If it's all about vision, maybe you do it and maybe you try, because it's more comforting and more fulfilling to say that you made it than to say, well, I just sold out. Even though you could retire for the rest of your life on that kind of money. But if you're really a driven entrepreneur, most of them don't want to retire. They'd rather reach the top of Mount Everest. Do it. 210. Then markets can shift beyond your control. Look at what's happening. Hourly wages can move. Price of ads, ads sold in pieces, algorithms. There's a lot of things can happen. And those things can impact how your company is able to run. So you've got a couple choices to make when you look at the lessons you have in here. Snapchat, they've never given up, and now they're sort of inventing themselves again. Will they make it? Who knows? If TikTok does if we have a certain election go a certain way in November of 2024 here, perhaps there is some legislation that comes up on TikTok. Perhaps there are some things that happen. There's a whole bunch of states out there that are suing Meta, claiming what happens on Insta and Facebook is directly impacting the psychological condition and life and health of women, young girls, who are constantly comparing themselves and looking for ratification. And you got people like Dove Soap running commercials during the Super Bowl, thank you for doing that, Dove, that talk about, hey, you are you. And how many likes you get and how many thumbs up you get does not determine your value in this life. And Dove trying to point out, you don't need social to do all that. Maybe get together with friends and family and maybe read books and do things and not be so tied to the digital heroin that is in that phone. So that, my friends, is a story of Snapchat. That's what gets us to the headlines with the layoffs and the stock price and all the fire and brimstone we're reading about to today. And will they be able to fight another day? Will they make it? We'll all find out. And there's also some lessons in there for you and me, even if you're doing something that might be fighting the giant. All right, well, I'm gonna take my vault and I'm gonna head back to the studio and wrap up. Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you got something out of that. I got something out of it. I love diving into companies, seeing the history, winding it back for you, and learning something for you and I. As I like to say, whether you're operating a t-shirt company in Berlin or a tech company in the United States, learning how other people have succeeded or failed or tried helps you just make better efforts on your side. If you like that case study, let's go check out this one from the Biz Doc archive. I think you might like that as well. And we've got a whole bunch of Biz Doc classics that are showing up in the feed. Check them out. Until next time, I'm Tom Ells with the Biz Doc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.